right, so we just left Ohio. We're in Indiana.
Goodbye, Ohio.
We're talking about two major questions we have after last night's fiasco.
Fiasco was the word.
The questions we're wondering here are, was that the last time we're going to play Mexico in a qualifier in Columbus? Because the Dos a 0 streak is over. The other question we have is, if we go into Costa Rica Tuesday night and we lose, and we're sitting there with no points at the bottom of the hex, is Jurgen's job on the line at that point? What are we tackling first?
How about Costa Rica?
Okay.
It's 2016. Apparently anything can happen, and will, and has. So maybe this is the year that we finally get a result in Costa Rica, or should finally get a win in Costa Rica. But I think there's a very good chance that we're looking at an 0-2 start.
We hammered them in the Copa America.
Yeah. Well, and that's it.
But
we destroyed them here, and then
we've never won there.
Yeah. So I think there's a very good chance that we're starting 0-2, and if we were playing at Saprissa, I think absolutely we would be going 0-2. Estadio Nacional at least doesn't have the atmosphere, the rampant unfairness that Saprissa seem to have. So I would say there's a very good chance. I think you have to consider Klinsmann's job on the line then. Sunil Gulati himself said U.S. Soccer hadn't replaced a coach during qualification since, who said, like Steve Sampson? Or was he after the World Cup? I can't remember. Either way, it's been a long time. The job, I think, has to come into question then, though. If we go 0-2, I mean, yeah, you could say that CONCACAF qualification is so forgiving. I mean, look at what Mexico went through for the last World Cup. We could probably lose our first 3 games, maybe even 4, and still make it through. It's by that 4th game that I think it truly becomes a must-win. The real problem, though, is what does this do to U.S. soccer if we go 0-2, then you have those camp cupcake crappy games in January, and you're not looking at a real victory until March. I think they have to consider Klinsmann's job.
And on top of that, just the fact that we lost, and if we were to lose again, we lost last night in part because we came out in a weird formation that we had never done before against the best team in our conference. And you've got your captain now publicly calling you out.
Yeah.
Because, Jurgen continually craps all over the players. Yeah, and Michael Bradley seemed to have enough of it and wanted to call Jurgen out for the tactics last night. So there's a bit of a rift going on there. I don't know how long that's really been going on, but
I wonder if he still has the locker room. I mean, when your captain, and Michael Bradley of all people, I mean, Bradley is always quiet and toes the company line. Every time there's been a question of what's going on with the players versus Klinsmann, it's always been Bradley who's kind of been political in his statements. To be as what sounded direct as he could be there, I gotta wonder if there's a reason why your captain is saying things, and to be critical of the coach. There's something going on. I don't, and he's not enough of a hothead, I think, in the way he speaks, the way he presents himself publicly, to do this without thought. I mean, he knew how this was going to be perceived, I think, and that means that he understood what he was saying. He wasn't just spouting off because he was pissed off that we lost. So, yes, I think Klinsmann has got to be on the hot seat. I mean, what do you guys think about who? Well, let's say he's gone. What are your thoughts on replacements?
First thought is, let me go and step back and just say, with his job, yes, it has to be in jeopardy because you do have the January camp to adapt.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
That's a lot of time, yeah.
To a new manager.
And you would hope that they would have an idea of who might be a potential replacement, kind of at all times, because you don't want to fire him and then go, well, let's start the interview process. I mean, you gotta You gotta have a
short list somewhere.
You gotta have a short list. You gotta have a plan, and I hope that's the case. I don't want to be Mexico where we're naming a new coach every 5 minutes when something goes wrong. So, to me, I would make the change if we lose at Costa Rica, especially if there's the belief that you've lost the locker room, which it kind of appears you have.
So who do you go for?
But the thing with Jurgen is every time his back is against the wall like this,
Yeah.
he comes out and
pulls a result out of nowhere.
exactly.
Now watch us, suddenly go and get like 6-0 in Costa Rica.
and he'll be fine for the next 6 months. So
Yeah.
How about here's a name for you outside the box thinking. Miguel Herrera, currently at Tijuana.
What? Herrera. I love the guy.
You don't think revenge?
He is entertaining. I don't know that I want.
He gets the best out of his teams.
Well, he did, except with Mexico. I don't. Yeah, I don't know that I want to share a coach. I mean,
No.
we've done it with Bora, I guess, but at least that went our way first.
Imagine Men in Blazers, though, if Miguel Herrera was our coach. It would never end. He's an entertaining guy, but I don't...
Outside the box thinking.
Jason Kreis.
Jason Kreis,
I don't know who else. Go back to Jose Peckerman or something.
Ziggy Schmidt.
He's available.
He's free. Yeah.
Well,
Is he tactically astute enough for this level? I know he's been talked about before, but I have my...
Yeah. Well, is Klinsmann...
that's the knock on Klinsmann.
Yeah. Is Klinsmann truly tactically sound enough for this level?
I think he's got a lot of really good ideas about developing young players, and
I think he'd be a good technical director. I just don't think he's a great manager of teams, or maybe a good in-game manager is really. The joke always, one of my favorites that I've heard is when we play friendlies. Oh, his subs 4, 5, and 6 are the best. Because when the hell do you never get to use those any other time? So his 1, 2, 3 can suck, but his 4, 5, 6 are awesome. So just wait till we get those other 3 in.
And it's also funny if you read the book Das Reboot. 10 years ago in Germany, they were saying the same exact things about him. They had the same pros and the same cons as we have now. He hasn't really changed who he is. He's got great ideas about fitness. He's got great ideas about player development, but
He is who we thought he was.
Tactically, he makes crazy decisions like he did last night, and putting players in positions where they're uncomfortable is a problem too.
He is far too much of a gambler. I mean, we finally got a lineup that was working, and granted, Jeff Cameron's hurt. You can't use him. Maybe there were some issues with, say, Sasha because of his broken nose that he couldn't play. Maybe Bedoya picked up something, whatever. But we finally had a lineup that was working, and then you blew the whole thing up, and to go 3 in the back when we haven't used the 3 in the back, since probably Steve Sampson? It's been roughly 20 years or something. I mean, it's...
And 3 in the back when your opposition has its strong points are the wings.
Yeah.
Why are you playing 3 in the back when they're going to expose? And
the wings were wide open.
They were they were way faster than us, and we had such a slow lineup on top of it. I mean,
we said he'd shoehorn Jermaine in.
Yeah.
And he did. So, not to hate Jermaine, but he's a warrior. But
and I don't fault him entirely, but his the downsides of having him in there are all known, and they were on display. I mean, all the downsides for everyone were on display, but he's too old and too slow at this point, and what are you gaining by trying to what were you countering to Mexico? When you looked at who they had, the speed they had, you could quickly see, and I think because then of Howard's injury, you're kind of screwed.
You can't use that as an excuse in the sense of Mexico had already used a sub in the 18th minute for an injury.
Yeah.
So you can't, as much as Tim Howard's injury
True.
does change your
That's
patterns,
true.
Mexico was in the same boat.
Yeah.
Mexico went a step further and used one at halftime.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as much as you may think that you got to be better prepared than that.
Yeah. Well, I
Which
think
brings us full circle back to the question:
right back. Yeah, and Klinsmann
is his job in jeopardy? What does he have to do? And
he's got to win. I think he's got to win. He's got to win. Maybe not resoundingly, but we have to look good to do it. We have to take control of the game in Costa Rica, which is just historically.
I disagree with both of those. I think he needs a result.
Well,
I get at one point.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, yeah.
But when your two hardest games, when two of your three hardest games are right out of the gate, get a result and move on.
Yeah.
I think that saves his job. I think a loss, especially a bad.
That's probably fair. I mean,
I think then. But this is Sunil Gulati. Probably stays.
Yeah, it's the safe choice. So we knew the Dos Aceros streak had to end at some point. This being 2016, where everything that can possibly happen that's strange does. It ended last night. Where are we going from here? Do we go back to Columbus? I know the crew are looking at potentially moving out of that stadium now, but it'll be a while before they get something built because they're just in kind of the research phase right now. But do we go back there? And I will say last night, it felt small. And I know it's the same stadium that I'd been to before, but in 2013 it felt big and powerful, and last night it just felt too small. And with all the ticket requests that we had, I think maybe that should be it. I think you still do a qualifier there, but maybe you move the Mexico game to where? Seattle or someplace like that, where you might be able to still keep a real advantage, but
I don't think they'll go to Seattle. I just don't. There's a reason they go to the Northeast rarely, and it's because it's
Northwest.
Northwest.
Northeast. I keep saying it, Northwest. It's because it's just so much farther to travel for all the guys, most of the guys, period, but all the guys coming from Europe. Now, the fan support and things certainly have them doing it more often, but in that regard, it would be cool, and I do think it would have been a better atmosphere than last night's was. Last night's atmosphere wasn't great, and I think some of it was that it wasn't just hardcore people this time. It was kind of everyone who wanted to go, and I think it naturally led to a quieter, less raucous crowd.
Well, an early goal does that too, but
the early goal certainly.
But we felt disorganized. I feel like I couldn't hear the other sections of the
that's absolutely
American
true.
Outlaws area. I didn't know. We felt off. I don't. It had kind of a weird vibe. We had a guy in front of us in a Lance Armstrong
Good old Lance.
U.S. Postal Service jersey.
He did not live strong last night.
No,
He did not. He was vomiting all over the seats in front of us. We told you before that something weird has to happen every time we're in Columbus. And last time it was blood all over our seats. This time it was puke.
Something projectile erupts.
But for a lot of the match, he had his hands kind of just in his head, like his head in his hands, just kind of leaning forward. And I think that's how a lot of us felt last night.
That's how we ended up.
Without the puking all over the bleachers. I think that's how a lot of us felt last night.
So, to answer the question, Columbus, I think, is gone. You said that they're looking at a new stadium to begin with. 3 or 4 years, that plan may be implemented in progress. So I think Columbus is gone. Seattle is one. Kansas City.
Kansas City might be another option. I mean, I do have.
KC's not that much bigger. Though,
I do have.
It's not much bigger, but it's louder.
Well, it's got a roof, which helps.
I kind of have mixed thoughts on this. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, Cruz Stadium just wasn't going to map free, wasn't going to last forever. Dos Acero, while the Columbus streak has ended, it's not like that's our only Dos Acero over Mexico. I mean, the best one is the first one, and yeah, there's been San Antonio. It didn't have to, I guess. It doesn't necessarily have to be looked at as a streak.
Right.
It's just a streak in Columbus.
I mean, the last time we played Mexico on our soil, we lost in LA, so it...
Oh, we fucked that one up.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to, I think, necessarily be the end of Columbus. I think it may be the end of that stadium, though. But, yeah, the problem does become where do you go next, and what do you do? And in that regard, you don't want to go to New York, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, LA, because you don't want to turn this back into the whole reason you went to Columbus in the first place. You got to keep it somewhat contained. So maybe Kansas City is an option.
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City might be, but I just feel like that's too remote for a lot of our people, like our fans, to go to. Even Kansas City, that airport sucks, and it's such a spread out city.
I think of great
too,
airports. I don't think Columbus. So
well,
airport should not be the reason.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, Columbus is an easy place to get to for a large percentage of the U.S. population.
So is
Kansas City, not as much. I mean
Columbus, you're between New York and Chicago,
yeah,
and
like
Right.
in Atlanta, sort
Kansas
of in a
City's
triangle.
between St.
so-
Louis and Denver, and it's not particularly close to either one.
No.
What about Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh might be an option. That's interesting.
It's a bigger stadium.
Um,
It's still in that same region.
yeah.
Easy for a lot of people to get to.
You saying Heinz Field, or you saying?
Heinz Field, yes.
That might
think
be
that's-
too big, I think. I don't know that...
It's U.S. Mexico.
Yeah,
There's no such thing as too big.
absolutely, but it will become another...
You still want a home field.
Yeah, it'll become
Right.
filled with Mexicans instead of filled with
Right.
U.S. fans.
And as we
that's
saw
not
last
what-
night, that a lot of people put in ticket requests that weren't actually going to use the tickets to make sure that they were able to get into the match, and the tickets ended up. I think it was the smallest number of the fewest number of Mexican fans I've seen at a game, but they still ended up in the sections scattered out all throughout the stadium.
Yeah.
So, the U.S. fans who went through the lottery system, some of them obviously sold the tickets
Yeah,
at
way to
StubHub
go,
or
assholes.
wherever, and let the opposition fans in.
Here's another couple outside the box. How about Atlanta? New stadium.
They'll have a new stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what
Orleans.
New Orleans would be a good city
fun.
for partying
Yeah.
for the game.
Sort of the opposite of Salt Lake City, but
It would be, but
dramatic
places
opposite,
where you can maintain the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I haven't been to the Superdome recently. But the last time I was there, it was kind of a crumbling dump, and that was right before Katrina.
It was when you were staying there during Katrina.
It was before that, but maybe they've thrown some money in it, but I don't know that I want it.
It's supposed to be Final Four in a few years. So.
Yeah, it's probably all right, but I don't know.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, they've got a new
Minneapolis
stadium
might be an option.
in the summer. I guess it'll be in the summer next time around. Should
US
be.
Bank Stadium, US Bank Field.
I mean,
Yeah.
Or you can take it outside. Like their new stadium should be ready by then.
No, those could be good ideas. Anyway, yeah, I guess you could comment, tell us what you guys think. Where do you think we should go? Is this the end of Columbus? We'll keep talking about it, I'm sure. But unless anybody else has anything, I think we're good here.
Bye, guys.
See you later.